Hello and welcome to Pensions in 10 with me, David Brooks, and my colleague, Rachel Coles. You'll notice that's not Simon, my usual host or co-host with Pensions in 10, has been for the last, God knows, year and a half or so, because Simon has now left Broadstone, and so he's going on to new challenges elsewhere. But Pensions in 10 will still continue, and we still want to bring you all the latest news that we've spotted on pensions. And we're also looking to change the format slightly, so we're going to be bringing in some different guests or different co-hosts from amongst the Broadstone family. So this week, Rachel's background is on financial well-being and financial education. So we'll get her perspective on some of the pension stories we've seen this week. And in future weeks, we'll have different colleagues from different parts of the business to give their perspective. But I will be here as often as I can be to lead you through these stories. So we hope you enjoy these ones this week, where we are going to be looking at, got to look at my notes now because I've forgotten. We're looking at Gen Z, a report on Gen Z from the PPI. We're looking at People's Pensions view on the future of the dashboards, and a very minor rebuke for the pensions regulator when talking about scams. Okay, Rachel, I think you've been looking at a PPI report into the financial pressures on Gen, and I'm going to say it, Gen Z, even though every part of me wants to say Gen Z, but Gen Z. So tell us what you've been seeing.
Yeah, so it's been a really interesting report this week. Came to us from the PPI, so the Pensions Policy Institute. So talking all about this generation of young savers, really focusing in on, again, nothing that we haven't seen before, the pressures that they're currently under. There's been economic uncertainty, certainly this issue around housing and how are they ever going to get on the property ladder, and how are they going to make that work for them. But I suppose that the part that this focuses in on really is about the ability to save, and how that's increasingly become quite difficult. It's very constrained for them. So nothing new there, but I guess what the policy, the Pensions Policy Institute are focusing in on here is really thinking about their attitude towards pensions and their ability to save for retirement. So a little bit like you've talked about many times on Pensions in 10, all about auto enrolment and how it has been, for lots of people, it's been a real benefit. But I think increasingly this generation are shifting the way that they're working. So this sort of report really looks at, what do we do then if we've got large swathes of people who are maybe having a primary employment, maybe they've got a side hustle, they're really kind of optimizing that digital economy and they're bolstering their income there. Those people maybe are having auto enrolment on part of their income, but then self-employed on another. What about the people who are in the gig economy, 0 hours contracts? How are they coping with their kind of pension requirements? Well, how are they going to fill this gap for themselves? So that's what the report is really focusing in on. And it's really kind of thinking about, great that there's a generation of people who've got more flexibility in their working lives, and if that's what they want, that's great. But there are lots of people who are kind of really falling in the cracks. As I said, it's not completely new to this generation. I'm sure there are lots of other parts of the economy as well, lots of workers who also face this problem. So really kind of looking at, how do we look towards the future, and how did people cope with this sort of issue of inadequate savings? So I don't know whether you've got any thoughts on that one.
Yeah, no, well, yeah, it's rang a lot of bells really with this whole sort of a change in focus. Where a pension has always been, I mean, we're both pensions people, so we do love a pension, but we do sometimes have to accept that perhaps pensions are becoming a bit outdated as you highlighting, people's working lives change and the way they work. And it's not like, we've got, I think of my pensions career, you've got, working with people that have been with one employer, one manufacturer or whatever, set up a DB scheme in the 1950s, and those people were in it for 40 years and they had one career, one job. Yeah. And we all know that's all changed. And that was one of the reasons for auto enrolment, was to try to track people. So when you change jobs, you're still developing your pension saving. But again, we do have to recognize that as life changes and society changes, that perhaps a pension isn't the product for all. And it actually made me bring sort of two stories together, because the Treasury Committee are looking into the lifetime ISA and whether that's fit for purpose. And that was the sort of effort the government had a few years ago to try to create something that was a bit more flexible, so it could deal with some of the short-term pressures that people want. People still want to buy houses and want to save for a house. So fine, you could save into a lifetime ISA and that could be used for your first house. But if not, and you've got any money left over, then that could then turn into a pension But the lifetime ISA always felt a bit, I don't know, a bit of a mystery. Not many people actually use them as much as perhaps we'd like, and some of the penalties for using it in not the right way, in inverted commas, not the way that they're designed for, was ended up being quite penal. So you had a 6% or 6.25% penalty, and the age ranges were quite restrictive as well. So it feels like there is a need for a product that kind of fills this gap of what younger people want, but without having to pin it to auto enrollment, which is kind of a bit rigid, but also allowing it to be flexible for people to use it in different ways. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see if that develops anywhere.
Yeah, certainly, and certainly kind of links the whole education piece as well, isn't it? Of that, lifetime ISAs versus pension is an eyes wide open decision. Certainly need to know about the pros and the cons of both products. And this kind of article that we've been talking over really talks as well about what's the future. So what can be done to help with this, I guess, is thinking first of all about digital economy and digital solutions. So it might be that for young people, for this next generation, that they need to have multiple pension pots. So do they know what the product that's going to work well for them? Talking about maybe adequacy as well. Again, is the 8% minimum, does that need to be looked at? And there needs to be more modelling around, how good that is for an individual. And then also potentially about finding a way to include those gig workers, those 0 hours contract. Do they need to expand out the offering further to include more individuals? And I guess, yeah, as I said, in a nutshell, that's what the article is all about this week. So hopefully there's some useful bits of information in there. So second story then is the one that we had a look at. So this is where the People's Pension have come out this week saying that there needs to be a delay to the pensions dashboard, and they've got some reasons why they think this needs to happen. So yeah, over to you if you could tell us a little bit more about that one.
Yeah, no, it's quite interesting. So People's Dashboard is sort of raising a flag. I suppose we need to clarify quite what they're suggesting a delay in. So with the Pensions Dashboard project, which we know is ongoing, and lots of listeners to this might be dealing with their own data to get it to connect at some point over the next year and a half, I suppose. We're starting to connect later on this year and through to October 26th. And from then on, there'll be a dashboard availability point. I always get that A wrong, which will be at some point, probably after 2026. And the government have already said they are delaying commercial dashboards. So we're going to have the sort of government-led dashboard run by Money and Pension Service. So that is going to happen. So I think people have leapt on that bit of the report from People's and suggesting they want to delay dashboards completely, which is not what they seem to be saying. Was not my interpretation of what they're saying. But they are highlighting a few areas where I think there's a few areas of sort of market pressure where people are going with how they think people will react when they see their pensions on the dashboard, which might lead to greater consolidation of pension pots, which discuss, which I think we will in a second. But also, other policy areas like the VFM work, and so how you represent that on a dashboard in a meaningful way so people can make informed decisions about their pensions. I mean, consolidation is something that I think I would say when I'm out and about with real people, sort of non-pensions people, it's the one thing they probably say to me more than anything else is, oh, I should consolidate, shouldn't I? I should consolidate. Yeah. And I always have to sort of, it's a bit like the tax-free cash debate. Oh, tax-free cash, you take it, it's tax-free in it. No, well, no, let's just think about, why you made that decision. What would you think? Consolidation, it sounds easy. It sounds like, well, I don't know, I only have to tell one person I moved house. If that's your motivation, I would say that's probably not the best reason to consolidate. There are other things that need to be brought into play. And I think that's where people are coming from, is they just want it to be, to have those safeguards in place so that people are going to be protected from their own decision making and have all that information they need. And I know you've looked at some of there's 5 changes they proposed, which I haven't really summarised very well, but there are kind of 5 key things that they've talked about. And I think you've looked at a couple, Rachel.
I think the big ones that I'm not going to go through all of them here, and we don't have time for that. But the 2 big ones that stood out for me really was about making sure that consumers had a really clear comparison. So before they make a pension transfer, they've got really clear comparison on things like charges, performance, so that it's an eyes wide open decision. Like you say, it shouldn't just be done for ease of admin. That's certainly one argument. That's certainly one kind of push factor for doing it, but it needs to be in your best interest. And one of the parts of the kind of study, and there were some studies that have driven this from People's Pension, is that people were unable to perceive the impact of charges when they were less than 1%. So as you know, charges can be quite different from one pension fund to another. And even just the impact of a difference of 1/4% or 0.5% really does have quite a large impact over a long period of time. So if people struggle to make that decision for themselves, then they need to have some clearer boundaries and clearer kind of information on that. So I thought, consumers having better information and being more informed, what's not to love about that, in my opinion. So that one, I think, great. If that's what this highlighting does, and that's the outcome, great. I think the second thing really to pull out from this is it can be a concern is if we then see pension transfers being incentivized, so cash incentive, high street voucher for 100 quid for John Lewis, let's say. We all know human beings are designed to make short-term decisions about their finances, and that is something I think that the industry should be concerned about, and we should make sure that either that doesn't exist or there's some really clear boundaries and guidelines around companies doing it. So those would be the two that I would pick out from there. And yeah, I think it's right to highlight those as issues. So lastly, we're going to go to a quick story really about a change from the pensions regulator and the scams leaflet. So over to you for this one.
Yeah, no, just a bit of just a note, because the regulator does seem to be having a habit of updating this leaflet. So they've got a leaflet on a link to a leaflet on their website which talks about scams, and the recommendation is that this is sent to your members at the time of transferring benefits, and they just updated it to remove some references to PensionWise, which is all well and good. That's fine, that probably makes sense, but they haven't told anybody about it and they've just updated it. So it's a bit frustrating. TPR, if you could just tell us when you change things, because sometimes administration firms will print them out, because it's probably better they get sent out as a hard copy, because people are more likely to read it. Yes, fine, you can put web link, and we do put web links to them in our newsletters to members and other communications, but actually at the point of transfer you probably do want a hard copy to go out, and that way someone's more likely to read it and recognize the risks around scams. So trustees, please make sure that you're aware that there's a new leaflet warning your members about scams.
Great. Good reminder.
Okay, that's it for Pensions in 10 this week. Thank you, Rachel, for joining me. I hope your first time wasn't too traumatic. Next week, I'll be joined by Andy Knight-Stevens, who's from our investment consulting team. So expect investment angles to our stories, but that's all good. And you may have spotted some things we've missed as well. But we hope you enjoyed it, and we look forward to seeing you next time.